Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, we are going to be talking about the latest announcement coming out from the CallofDragons team, which is in relation to the KvK registration extension that they were talking about doing a couple days ago, I believe on the 27th, that it was posted on the official Discord. If we take a look at that, you could see here is where the announcement came out. However, they have added quite a bit of information to this. And so we're going to actually come back and read this in a moment, which I wonder if they did, because one of the things I talked about in the video where I covered this was that they didn't go into enough detail on this for exactly how it would play out. However, let's read through this. I'm going to show you some kingdoms that are in pre-war right now for Season of Strife, so that way we can hopefully draw some, I don't want to say parallels, but some conclusions based on different timelines and how it feels like there's a missed opportunity here. But all that and more in a moment. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us on, because that was a lot. Thanks. So, going off of the announcement, we have recently received a large volume of feedback from players requesting an extension of the migration period for the Season of Strife. In order to improve the overall migration experience and better meet the needs of the player community as a whole, we have decided to temporarily extend the registration period for this Season of Strife. The adjustments are as follows. The registration deadline for SOS 5 will be extended to 7/7/25 at reset. And then the registration deadline for SOS 2 will be extended to 7/9. Okay. And keep in mind, the reason that they're probably doing this is because they stated before that your first two, I believe the first two seasons into SOS will be separate from like the main SOS group, which starts at SOS 3 and beyond. So essentially once you're in the third season for Season of Strife, then you'll join the main pool, which again, it would have just been nice if maybe they would have done it a little bit. Again, it's either here or there. But they state, well, that's how that's going to work. Players can migrate freely before these new extended deadlines. We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. Please accept this gift as compensation. Okay, I mean, a gift is a gift, right? Free rewards, lovely. However, let's now look at, so the main takeaway here is that it gives players, groups more of an opportunity because they have more time now to migrate to kingdoms that they would like to migrate to. And then two, I think someone said this yesterday when we were talking about the discharging, where they said it takes 5 days. And I can't recall what the timer was. I actually tried to go and look this up in game, but that information wasn't listed on the King's tools under the info for the discharge information. And so, which would be nice if they put that there and said, like, this is how much time that will have to elapse, right, before the player is discharged on the countdown. But someone said 5 days. So if that ends up being true, let's just say it's a number of days. This obviously gives kingdoms more time to remove any players or potential dead weight that they need to. And then you have more time available now as well to get more players into the kingdom that you're trying to make room or at least fill out any of that empty space. If we end up going back over to the Discord here, we could see that we are collecting feedback, right, that Gloria posted. However, you might recall, what you might end up recalling is that there is the, right, if you agree with the delay, if you disagree with the delay, collection will stop at 4 UTC on Sunday, right? So again, it's already been enacted. However, where it says here, which is to clarify the reason for the vote, problem, which again, and this part, almost all of this from like this was, I believe, what was initially posted. All of this is brand new. Right? So this is my first time seeing this part, which again, it would have been great if they included some of those things in. And then you get to see here, they also mentioned the discharge thing about 5 days. So we'll get there in a moment. So to clarify the reason for the vote, problem with the current timeline, the migration window between home kingdom phase and classification is too short, leading to 3 issues. Okay. I mean, this is probably exactly what they should have posted initially. So that way everyone just has a clear understanding of what is at stake and what is in need of people advocating for such delay or not, so things are crystal clear. Okay, number one, migration cooldown. Under the current timeline, many players who migrated in the last KvK will still be under cooldown and unable to move again, preventing them from joining the kingdoms where they actually want to play. That to me seems like that's a very easy fix. Just shorten the cooldown timer, or better yet, make it so there is no migration cooldown timer. I mean, if you think about it and there's no migration cooldown timer, then it allows for players to migrate sooner, more often, which means more money you get to make. So again, why is there a migration cooldown timer still? To me, it makes absolutely no sense. Okay, number 2, discharge timing. Discharging players takes 5 days. If matchmaking begins too soon, discharged players will still be counted towards the kingdom's classification and matchmaking power. So again, this is important because if you end up having players that you need to be removed and it ends up taking 5 days, and let's say you have less than 5 days between when classification is starting, which it seemed as though it probably was about that, if not less than that, it doesn't really work out, right? So again, does the discharging of players need to take 5 days? No. How long do I think it should take? If you're really going to put a cooldown on it, I think it should take 24 hours. Because, and to be fair, really, I think 24 hours conservatively, I think really what it should be is immediately. Why? Because you should be having a conversation with any of the players, if need be, that you know, and then you go ahead and just auto discharge them, right? And obviously getting the permits and things like that you might have to do as well, and vouchers, etc. Okay, discount vouchers for migration. Kings can issue 20% migration discount vouchers, recovery vouchers to players lacking migration permits, but only on the 1st of each month. The next batch arrives July 1st, which may be too late to assist members before migration closes. These are all things that are solvable. It's just a matter of them lining up the timelines. So that way, first off, you either line the timelines up so that way when you're getting out, when a kingdom gets out of a KvK, the first of the month goes into during the new KvK timeline before the next season starts. So you have an opportunity to get the vouchers issued. Or what you do is you scrap the timeline, you scrap the whole July 1st, first of the month thing, and you just issue out the discount, or you allow the Kings to issue out the migration discount vouchers at once a phase starts, right? So it could be, right, whatever the phase is before classification. Let me go see here, right? So it would be like maybe once registration starts, right? Maybe once registration starts, it allows you to issue those out, and then you get a week or 5 to 7 days that it allows for you to do that until matchmaking, right? So you still have enough time. It's just, however you're going to do it, again, you can fix it with one of 2 ways. Okay, now, Greatest Heights. The Greatest Heights event, I see. I'm confused here. Is this supposed to be the order that things are going in? So it says GH, the event, Great Heights Power, classification of the process of grouping kingdoms into ABCD, which then serves as the basis for matchmaking between these tiers. Okay, is this like the order it's supposed to go in? It would have been nice if they were clear on that. Home kingdom and then recovery vouchers. Oh, I see. Is this just I see. This is just like a rubric or a table, not a table of contents, but why am I forgetting? So just so many words are going through my head, but basically this is just where you can read if they're referring or using an abbreviation some here, so you know. Like example where it says HK phase, home kingdom. I actually like that they did this though, because I've never seen them do this before. So this is nice that they're giving you some references, breaking down what things mean. So when they refer to things, there's a reference point. That's great. And then recovery voucher, right? If a player accepts a recovery voucher before season matchmaking begins, that player's power will not be counted for realm matchmaking purposes. It also helps reduce the cost of migration permits, right? Delaying the season start by a few days may help with these issues. So now let's go back to in-game. So we look in-game, and if I go and click here, you could see matchmaking has been pushed back. Brink of War has been pushed back. Now, what was the thing we talked about happening, or that most likely was going to happen, that we thought would happen, because it just didn't make sense for them to only push back classification, but then not push back anything else, right? So you could see here that it wasn't just the classification but everything else got pushed back, right? So now the season is on a 1 week delay. However, the thing that gets me, and it is a small thing, and they already announced it, they already stated it, so it's kind of already out there. But if I look at a kingdom, for example, that's in the G2 pool, which is the ones that have matchmaking for 7-9, and then you have ones that are matchmaking like Kingdom 18, right? Block, I think they're in the G1 pool right now. And so they're 7-7, right? 2 days before. Again, my hope is eventually you'll just see more and more kingdoms entering in to whatever the main pool is. Or better yet, them just having a main pool. So if you're going to do SOS 1, SOS 2 as their separate timelines, but then SOS 3 and beyond is just all the same timeline, that's what I hope they do. Because the one thing that is like sucks to see is when you have a bunch of isolation and dispersion of kingdoms that should be fighting in the main KvK pool for SOS, which at this point is the G2 pool, especially when, as we talk about, the more kingdoms you have there, the more kingdoms that register, the more kingdoms that are in the same kingdom pool or the KvK pool, the more likely it is, the higher percentage chance it is that you will get a more balanced matchup, right? Like a great example here. You got 150 kingdoms that registered for War of the Last Elves. Why are we having 12 register for Winter is Upon Us at this point? And registration's almost done, right? There's only 2.5 hours left. So I don't think this is going to move that drastically. But instead of 150, you could have 162. So it's just, again, that's why my hope is that we either, and keep in mind, everyone is in the pool, and it's just a matter of trying to get everyone on the same scenario. I think that obviously that's a little bit more of what it is now. And one of the things I've talked about before is kind of how to get this done is where you rotate the scenarios, right? So if War of the Last is the newest one, then do that. If War of the Last, and this is just one example, doesn't mean this has to be the way it's done, which is where, okay, well, the next KvK season, then everyone goes back to Winter is Upon Us. Okay. And then the next season, if there's nothing new out, at that time, then you go back to War of the Last. Or you can have everyone vote. You have the kings and queens vote, and then the majority wins on the scenario everyone wants to do. Again, I just feel like there's better ways to do this to where, like, this to me just shouldn't be happening, right? And that's not to necessarily sit here and say, like, oh, we need to take the choice away. What it really comes down to is the fact that we know this to be true. When you have a smaller number of kingdoms that go into a KvK scenario with a small group, it only becomes a higher percentage chance that the matchups are going to be imbalanced and not fair at all. And we've seen this happen time and time and time again. So again, this is why, again, my hope is, geez, without saying again so much these days, we get to a point that I think is a little bit more sustainable. But am I happy to see, 150 people that registered for that? Absolutely. We ended up having, if you recall, last season for Rise of the Dragon, there was 153 kingdoms that registered for that, which I believe was the previous peak amount of total active kingdoms that had registered for a KvK scenario prior. That was 2 seasons ago. Last season in SOS, right, we had 149 kingdoms registered for Winter is Upon Us, 47 registered for COC, which to me is wild because they could have broke the record and we could have been at 196 kingdoms that registered for the same storyline. But again, I get it, right? There was pros and cons on whether you wanted to do COC or Winter is Upon Us. But now you're at 150, so you've broke last season's record for Winter is Upon Us. You're 3 short of Rise of the Dragons. So to me, I hope that we can see 154 kingdoms or more that are going into that are going to end up going into this War of the Last. So again, we'll see what ends up happening. Right, there's still about 2.5 hours left, at least as of recording this. So yeah, let me know what you guys think on this one. Were you happy to see a little bit more clarity on the Discord announcement? How does it feel that they didn't, even though they didn't state how long the delay would be, Do you think a week is okay? I don't really think a week is that massively impactful, but do I think that this is one of those things they need to start figuring out and get a better sense under control for their timeline going forward so we don't end up having these kinds of situations? Because these opportunities are fixable. These are solvable to do before the next KvK season. Whether that's them enacting them on their own and or just asking for feedback from the Hall of Kings chat and or anyone else. But the one thing I will say to end this out that I really like is how they referred to in the announcement in game where they said we have recently received a large volume of feedback from players requesting an extension of the migration period for the Season of Strife. And then we go and we absolutely see that being echoed where you have 1,687 yeses versus 185 no's. This level of transparency where we get to see the actual numbers, or at least some numbers, for who's advocating for what, and they post that information and or just make it public like it is in a real-time scenario from the announcement, that allows for such a deeper level of not only transparency, but clarity. And I would say good communication, right, between the COD team and the community on what is true and what may be true or we're not really sure on. Because now you can't sit here and say that they're just saying that or they're making that claim and there's nothing to back that up. It's right here in front of us. So again, good on them. I'd love to see more stuff like this. Or if they run stuff, show us some stats, right? Show us some numbers. It doesn't necessarily mean that you got to show us every single person's response, but it would be nice to have at least some cliff notes and maybe some percentages here and there on like how things went. So anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. You guys let me know what you think on everything in the comments below. That's it for me. As always, until next time, we will catch you later.